you out of earth.
You're watching Mind Chaos Brew. We expose the grift, break down the psychology, and call out the chaos that nobody else will. Let's get into it.
What up, y'all? What up, y'all? What up, y'all? So, today we're going to have a quick little conversation. I really don't see the need to, take you all the way through there and make it long and drawn out. So, I had a conversation today. I stopped by another content creators panel about race and racism and like how introducing race into every conversation has a tendency to undermine an overarching issue. First and foremost, I think what a lot of people don't realize based on the region that they're from is that race has long been debunked in the scientific community as a biological fact. Hey, queen. Hey, T-Pre. Hey, Ominites. So they want to sit there and they want to argue with you, right? Because a lot of their constant conversation and talking points are in fact rooted in being white-centered, okay? So we're going to read through a peer-reviewed article, right? And if I have time and I feel like doing it today, then we'll do the impediments to countering racist pseudoscience. But first, we're going to start off with why race isn't biological. All right, so let's get into it. Now, this is from Cambridge Core Blog, all right? It was written on August 29th of 2025, okay? And it was last updated on the 29th of 2025. So, even though findings from genetic and other sciences unequivocally refute biological conceptions of race, this erroneous viewpoint remains widespread among the general public. Why can't scientists convince people that race isn't biological? Since the 1950s, scholars at universities have been spreading the message that race is a social construct, a way of categorizing people that society has devised, in this instance, based on the arbitrary criterion of skin color. So from 1950, you guys, the science has been out there. Hey, DMO, the science has been out there that race is not real. In fact, 85% of the people of the global majority are people of the global majority. It's only like 15% or a little less than 15% of people that are non-melanated or white people. And they're concentrated really in two major places where it looks like they become the overwhelming majority, right? So if we look at the world as a whole, right? And where do people live? The majority of people in the world live in China, in India. Next is Africa. Then, Russia, the European countries, Brazil and Colombia, Mexico and the USA. Like the majority of the world is people that are of some type of color or indigenous historical background. Now, genetic data clearly shows that race are not separate genetic lineages, and that the differences in skin color are not indicative of underlying genetic divisions. They're not. It's simply proximity to the sun and the body's ability to be able to process vitamins and minerals that you need the sun in order to aid in consumption of. And I mean, I think by now in 2025, people should be very well aware of it. Hey, Roy Chess, because when you get a blood transfusion, when you give or receive blood, they're not asking you about your race. When you go to give blood or receive blood, they ask you about your blood typing. O positive, O negative, A positive, A negative, B positive, B negative, AB positive, AB negative. Because the negative is the ROGAM factor. And of course, if you have somebody with positive blood, then they can't give some blood to negative ROGAM and vice versa, because then, of course, it causes a cataclysmic situation within the body and a major instance of sepsis. Now, when it comes to organ donation as well, They don't really care about your race. What they care about is your body height, your body mass, and how your organ would be aligned with somebody else's body organs. This is why they have, on several instances, taken the organ of a person of color and given it to a white person and vice versa. Yes, we will get into all of that. Right now, we're just kind of debunking some of it. Like I think I'm gonna do a second part to this. It just depends on how I'm feeling, guys. I'm a little under the weather today, but this message has to get out there. So I'm pushing through. Throughout history, humans have constantly interbred, mixing up our genes such that meaningful differences never arose. And I'm going to tell you, when you guys go to 23andMe, Ancestry.com, and all of this and all of that, they tell you this is for entertainment purposes only. They don't even have enough of a database to give you any type of conclusive evidence genetically based on regions. They let this be known because anthropologists have told us for years, and there's a periodical that comes out from Anthropology Today that says race is not real. I think it was written in like the early 2000s, late 90s. Anyway, let's continue. In fact, from a genetic perspective, using skin color to categorize people is as random as the fabled warring residents of Gulliver's Travels, neighboring islands of Lilliput and the Belfast, differentiated by whether they cracked open eggs at the smaller or larger end. Let me give you a real world perspective. It's like Dominicans and Haitians. They are literally from the same island. But let you call a Haitian Dominican or a Dominican Haitian, and you're going to start a war. And there are plenty of Haitians that are very much light-skinned and plenty of Dominicans that are very much dark-skinned. Yep, that's right, Studio Mansion. There's a video of a man confronting the owners of DNA ancestry companies, and they admit the results are less than 1% accurate. Hey, Riaz. Right. Ooh, child, that whole part. Now, I've done this topic before, and I got into like how this whole started with the nonsense of the skull sizing and, oh, black people's skulls are smaller, white people's skulls are bigger, this, that, and the third. And it was all a bunch of bull. It was really nonsense, and they've kind of played in people's faces to push this agenda of race, which is simply a class discrimination. Okay, so Jonathan Swift satires how in the real world, trivial differences can be blown out of proportion and escalate into conflicts. Despite the concentrated effort of academics to teach students that race is not biological in wider society, this lesson remains stubbornly unlearned. Something appears to be blocking communication, and what it is people's stubborn nature. Why would I admit that race is a social construct and it's not real? Because if I admit that, then I have to admit that I'm buying into a societal construct that makes me either greater than or less than, and it affords me the ability to be either dominant or victim. It takes away the visage of being independent and having actual manifest destiny control over one's self. So an article in the Cambridge Core blog, and it was published in Evolutionary Human Sciences, they identified 5 impediments to the effective countering of racist pseudoscience. Now, somebody said today that racist science. It's impossible. Because anybody that's had any tenure in biology and genetics knows genetics are made up of a gamete square. So it's all about the dominant and recessive genes of each individual parent. Hey, Triggs. So if your mom has a dominant gene of brown hair and brown eyes, and your dad has a dominant gene of brown hair and brown eyes, more likely than not, you're going to have brown hair and brown eyes. But here's the caveat. You could also, from a brown hair, brown-eyed mother and a brown hair, brown-eyed father, have a child that has blonde hair and blue eyes, red hair and green eyes. This is why they say that people of the global majority have the mother gene, because the dominant and recessive traits in melanated people actually have capacity to render offsprings of all delineations that you see across the globe, not even just the diaspora. I bet you would be shocked to know there are, tribes in Africa where people have skin brown as mine or browner and bright blonde hair and bright blue eyes. It happens because it's about, again, dominant and recessive genes. So each of these hindering elements either counters, undermines, or blocks the effective communication of accurate science related to race, thereby promoting racism. So when you see somebody say that somebody biracial is not Black or a person of color, they're promoting racism. When you see somebody saying, well, there's no such thing as two races, that's true, but they're also promoting racism by saying there's a separation between race. There's one race, the human race, and then there's the social construct that keeps everybody in their boxes and their checks and their balances. Now, the first such barrier is belief in genetic determinism. Attributing group differences to genes provides a simple, easy to understand explanation that sounds credible to a general public, regularly fed a diet of gene for X explanations in the media. Genetic studies are often presented as breakthroughs that will lead to a new cure or treatment, while genes are rarely described as just one of many causal factors involved. And little prominence is given to the small amount of trait variance explained by DNA. Belief in genetic determinism is widespread and a genuine societal problem because it can foster both intolerant attitudes and acceptance and even support of inequality. Like people that are forcing you to write humans as a species. Exactly. Child, listen. People that keep trying to feed you to this very day the differences in the races are racist. They want to be a victim or they want to be an antagonist of victimizing. That's it. It's simply that. Hey, Either Man. So, it's just in my ear. You guys can't hear that. Okay. It is disturbing that a basic education in genetics may not help. The simple cases commonly used to introduce students to Mendelian genetics, blue versus brown eyes, for instance, are often characterized as direct genotype to phenotype mappings, and hence can actually encourage genetic determinism. Fortunately, innovative approaches to genetics education are being developed in which genes are no longer presented as the whole story. Studies show that when students are taught that traits typically have multiple causes and are sensitive to the environments, this broader genetic education can inoculate them against genetic determinism, which is very interesting indeed, because when we look at psychology, right? Psychology constantly teaches nature versus nurture. Does someone turn out a certain way because of the environment that they live in or because of the nature of their genetics? And there's constantly conversation about that, with most people believing that it's really nurture, right? If you take and put somebody in a horrible environment, but then you nurture them, you pour into them, you educate them, you love on them, they're going to turn out way different than someone that's thrown into the same environment and left to their own devices. These are facts, not fiction. Hey, Nullify. Hey, Kills. So a related concern is an overly simplistic conception of heredity that attributes the inheritance of traits and of their differences to genes and genetic variation. Recent years have witnessed an explosion of scientific interest in molecular attachments to DNA, epigenetic inheritance, which is absolutely amazing, right? Because you have all these genomes inside of your body that tell you who you may or may not be. They give you your appearance and different things like that, but they have little markers and little atoms that attach to it that can change how that gene actually talks to another gene on side of your DNA strand. Like it's so dope. It's so dope. Anyway, hormones, nutrients, antibodies, symbionts such as bacteria, cultural knowledge, including in other animals, and diverse ecological legacies. The significance of this non-genetic inheritance for understanding racial differences is only now coming to prominence. So you have a lot of people, that are really behind in their education, right? So with the scientific community in particular, you really have to stay on top of the studies that are coming out. You have to stay on top of the research. You have to stay on top of the educational trends to know exactly what is going on. So for illustration, persistence differences in the average level of scholastical achievement between races is not explained by genetic transmission. Now I want you to catch that. The differences in scholastic achievement by the races, it's not explained by genetics. They don't say, oh, this is a Black person, so they have an inability to learn. What do they say? Well, this person comes from a poor neighborhood. Oh, this person is a victim of redlining. They don't have the ability to access the same educational materials. It's through legacies of inherited wealth. Inherited environments that vary in their amenities, opportunities, and resources. Toxins such as lead, non-genetic disease, and other inherited factors through which the experiences of the parents, i.e. trauma, famine, and racism, affect the physiology of offspring. People need to be introduced to the complexity of inheritance so that they don't always assume racial differences are genetic. A third impediment is a belief in the naturalistic fallacy. The false belief that traits that evolved are desirable or inevitable. For instance, the growth of Western nations as industrialized global powers has been misattributed to the intrinsic merits of these nations, rather than to colonialism. While differences between Africans and European Americans are misattributed to shortcomings of the former, rather than the legacies of slavery, segregation, and discrimination. So the social construct of race during a time when a group of people wanted to capitalize off of people is what is really the residual aftermath that goes on today in society, especially in the United States of America. But what people don't also speak to is the indentured servants that were here. Indentured servitude was very much a part of chattel slavery and of that period of time. So when we start to look at how the people that are considered or deemed to be trailer trash, they are also inheriting genetic discrimination. See how that works, Jake? A fourth barrier is the failure of relevant scientific disciplines to take responsibility for teaching the science of race and racism. No, it is very much a social construct. It is the fact that nobody actually has been paying attention to the scientific results that have come out. This is why minorities have no clue, because nobody's forcing them to learn this. Now, while race and racism are taught by anthropologists, psychologists, and social sciences, biologists have largely ignored this topic. And as a consequence, biology classes do not adequately equip students to understand the complexities of human biology, and textbooks rarely challenge stereotypical racial beliefs. Relevant scientific knowledge that exposes racist claims as false needs to be incorporated into the curricula, and interdisciplinary approaches to teaching the topic encouraged.
Indeed, biologists have a particular responsibility in teaching the science of race and racism, as historically they played a key role in reifying the idea of race and are now uniquely equipped to rectify past mistakes. Again, let me pull up that video. Mm-hmm. Yes, here it is.
But we need to talk, first of all, that cranial features are not infallible indicators of ancestry. In fact, the most seasoned forensic anthropologists say that there's only about 85% accuracy in assessing racial ancestry based on multiple cranial features. Now, I hear a number like 85%. I think that's really high. It sounds like a very accurate thing, but it's not 100%. Here's the catch. The less we know about the context surrounding the skull, that is like where it was found and things like that, the less accurate the assessments become. So there's a lot of other information that's going into these assessments. So what are the traits that vary between skulls of different racial backgrounds? Does a skeleton have a race? Would someone know your race just based on your skeletal structure and your cranial structure? The influential figure who contributed significantly to the scientific concept of race was Johann Friedrich Blumenbach. Now, he put a special emphasis, though, on the study of skulls and reduced diversity of skulls to 5 main varieties. He was born in Germany, and he made notable strides in comparative anatomy and anthropology, and he left a lasting legacy in this field. He emphasized the unity of humanity and refuted the notion of distinct species or subspecies of humans. But he classified humans into 5 distinct races based.
And that is the person that classified races into 5 distinct races. And the reality of it is that he was lying. He was lying and it wasn't true. And I mean, I get how Roy Chess, to your point, biologists are the people that need to be debunking this to a large degree. However, anthropology and sociologists, they actually are kind of the ones to really hold the line on this, because they are the ones that deal with the social sciences of it all, right? Because anthropology is the study of humankind. And when we're studying humanity and humankind, we need to really understand the ideology, the modus operandi, the reasons why someone would dupe the public in this way. So they have the responsibility by the past. I agree with you. The final concern is the self-promotion of academic fields. The histories of many disciplines, including biology, anthropology, and psychology, are tarnished with racism and eugenics, and a reticence to teach science that exposes biological race as a myth and may result from embarrassment about these histories. For fear of putting students off, and this concern is not entirely ill-founded, but a greater danger is that failure to acknowledge past transgressions may alienate minoritized students. Acknowledging that racism is a deep structural problem is a key recommendation of experts. Yet academics sometimes respond defensively to the accusation that their field's leaders were racist. But both Ronald Fisher and Charles Darwin have recently been subject to this apologism. Open appraisal of such behavior while giving voice to alternative perspectives, including the marginalized, are central pillars of anti-racism, inclusive teaching, and curriculum decolonization. So, what up, Audio? Audio DC. So, this is something that really needs to be looked at and evolved. And we, the people, deserve to give ourselves the truth. Because if you think that you are different from somebody else, if you think that somebody else is better than you to a large degree, it colors your ability to interact productively in the world. It colors your ability to really evolve as a group, as a species, to have dynamics and to have power. You mean to tell me that the majority of the world has melanin, and melanin is a lack of melanin is an anomaly, and you really believe that race is real? Make that make sense. Hey, YouTube Unfolded. Yeah, I can agree with you to a degree, but when they've been telling you, hold on a second, let me see if I could pull that article up. Ah, here it is. So this is from 2020. This is one of, you're a human being. Of course you're melanated. Why would you not be? You're not a different type of anybody's melanin. This is a way to separate the masses, to make them believe one is greater than the other. You either have melanin or you don't. Now, this is a great article. This is a great read for anybody that is not necessarily really well versed in science, but wants to start to take a look and go down a rabbit hole of anthropology, genetics, race, sociology, and all this good stuff. And this comes from sapiens.org, right? So when we are reading into this, I'm going to read through it for you guys. So this is from, what is this? Alan Goodman. A friend of mine with Central American, Southern European, and West African ancestry is lactose intolerant. Drinking milk products upsets her stomach, and so she avoids them. About a decade ago, because of her low dairy intake, she feared that she might not be getting enough calcium. So she asked her doctor for a bone density test. And he responded that she didn't need one because Blacks do not get osteoporosis. It's not true. It's not true at all. My friend is not alone. The view that Black people don't need a bone density test is long-standing and a common myth. A 2006 study in North Carolina found that out of 531 African Americans and Euro American women screened for bone mineral density, only 15% were African American women, despite the fact that African American women made up almost half of that clinical population. A health flare in Albany, New York in 2000 turned into a ruckus when Black women were refused free osteoporosis screenings. The situation hasn't changed in more recent years. Meanwhile, FRAX, a widely used calculator that estimates one risk of osteoporotic fractures, is based on bone density combined with age, sex, and yes, race. Race, even though it is never defined or demarcated, it is baked into the fracture risk algorithms. Let's break down the problem. First, presumably based on appearances, doctor placed my friend and others into a socially defined race box called Black, which is a tenuous way to classify anyone. Race is a highly flexible way in which societies lump people into groups based on appearance that is assumed to be indicative of deeper biological or cultural connections. As a cultural category, the definitions and descriptions of races vary. Color lines based on skin tone can shift, which makes sense, but the categories are problematic for making any sort of scientific pronouncements. Second, these medical professionals assume that there is a firm genetic basis behind this racial classification, which there isn't. Third, they assume that this purported racially defined genetic difference would protect these women from osteoporosis and fractures. So, as we get into it, and we start really, this is from an anthropologist. This is from Anthropology Today, and I'm going to put the links in. So I want y'all to go and I want y'all to read it. I'm about to put it in the chat, and I'm going to put the other article that we just read in the chat as well, right? There's a lot of information out there. And that is not exactly the article that I was looking for. Give me a minute. Well, I mean, again, you have a right to feel that way, but it is still something that needs to be discussed. Oh, this is a good one too. Hold on a minute. Thank you. To your point, to Rochester's point, this is from the American Association of Biological Anthropologists. Ooh, what does it say? Race. Let me zoom it in for y'all. Race does not provide an accurate representation of human biological variation. It was never accurate in the past, and it remains inaccurate when referencing contemporary human populations. Humans are not divided biologically into distinct continental types or racial genetic clusters. Instead, the Western concept of race must be understood as a classification system that emerged from and in support of European colonialism, oppression, and discrimination. It thus does not have its roots in biological reality, but in policies of discrimination. Because of that, over the last 5 centuries, race has become a social reality that structures societies and how we experience the world. In this regard, race is real, as in racism. Both have real biological consequences. Humans share the vast majority, 99.9% of our DNA in common. Individuals, nevertheless, exhibit substantial genetic and phenotypic variability. Genome environment interactions, local and regional biological changes through times, and genetic exchange among population have produced that biological diversity we see in humans today. Notably, variants are not distributed across our species in a manner that maps clearly onto socially recognized racial groups. This is true even for aspects of human variation that we frequently emphasize in discussions of race, such as facial features, skin color, and hair type. No group of people is or ever has been biologically homogeneous or pure. Let me say that again for the racists in the back. No group of people is or ever has been biologically homogeneous or pure. Furthermore, human populations are not and never have been biologically discrete, truly isolated, or fixed. So when we're sitting here and we're having these discussions and people want to sit there and say, well, it's all about race, and it's all about race, and it's all about race, and race, and race, and race, and race, and race, and race. Hi. You're a racist. There is only one race. That race is a human race. There are major travesties that have happened to people all over the world, especially people of the global majority. But that is due to mindset. That is due to policy, way of thinking, and people of the global majority not fighting back against things that were not true. So I brought this topic forth. Well, yeah, that's who. Hey, Savage. I brought this topic forth so that you can start asking yourself some questions. What is really the cause of the inequities and the imbalances that you face and deal with today? Is it your genetics? Are you stupid because you're a certain skin color? Do you lack power or have an abundance of power? Are you overly educated because of your genetics? Or is it more so based off of your effort? See, the funny thing is, when it comes down to appendages, right? People will say, oh, this race has big ones and that race has small ones. Is that really the truth? No, it's not. They'll say this race is physically dominant, and this race isn't. Is that really true? Not at all. This race is better than that race, and blah blah blah. No, you're just letting your racism peek out. Your slip is showing. So, like most things I say, I'm not ever talking out of the side of my neck. That would be stupid of me. Oh my God, my God, my God. Let's matter of fact, let's look at this one as well. Hey, baby. Who said Indians don't have blue hair and blonde hair, blue eyes? Who said? You know that's just a genetic rarity, right? Blonde hair and blue eyes are the combination of recessive genes. So there's that. But am I? So this page comes from the National Library of Medicine and the National Center for Biotechnology Information. Let's see what they have to say. My God, today. Social scientists have long understood race to be a social category invented to justify slavery, and evolutionary biologists know that the socially constructed racial categories do not align with our biological understanding of genetic variation. The completion of the Human Genome Project in 2003 The completion of the Human Genome Project in 2003 confirmed that humans are 99.9% identical at the DNA level, and there is no genetic basis for race. My God, today. My God, today. Oh, what is it? What is it? Impediments to countering racist pseudoscience from Cambridge University. My God, today. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Oh, it just can't be me. Among academics who study race and racism, there is a consensus that race is a social construct. Wagner, 2017. Rather than a reflection of the physical reality. These authorities, as well as many people outside of academia, who would accept the definition of racism along the lines of systemic discrimination by a powerful individual or institution against individuals based on their perceived membership in a socially defined racial group. Graves and Goodman, 2022. This definition has the advantage that it captures how racism can become embedded within a range of societal structures, including academia itself. Yet these definitions of race and racism are not universally accepted. Despite decades of teaching about the meaning of race, a disturbingly large fraction of people continue to view it as a biological concept. Individuals with stronger racial prejudice have been found to be more likely to believe that biological races exist and to attribute behavioral traits to genes. Jaratine, 2006, Singer, 2010. In addition, some subsections of the public embrace a narrower definition of racism that equates it with racial prejudice on the part of evil people with extreme views, while eschewing or actively denying the existence of institutional or structural racism. Oh no, again. I mean, you can argue with me all day, but can you argue with Cambridge? Let's look at this. Oh, hold on a second. I want you guys to hear it. My bad. There it is. Thank you.
Being from medieval Christianity. This states that nature is composed of hierarchies that begin with God and goes down from there. So starting from greater to lesser. In history, this has been used to justify not only treating animals however we want, but also colonized people as slaves. Despite how we now look at race, from the 19th leading into the 20th century, this ideology was used to rank Europeans and even justify inequalities among them, most notably Italian and Irish populations in the US, but several others as well. Science has found that when it comes down to our physical variations, which includes skin color, 94% of it actually lies within what we call racial groups. In other words, two Europeans can often have more physical and genetic differences compared to a Northern European and a person from West Africa.
I bet some of you out there are wondering, how does this make sense? Especially because we can clearly see there's a bigger difference. Well, this is where our bias comes in. We have all been brought into a world where we see skin color before nearly any other feature. But objectively speaking, our skin color is determined by such a small part of our DNA that it cannot determine if a person is, for example, better at sports or smarter. That's not how our genes work. We currently use race to classify between skin colors, but we could have defined race by eye color, the amount of body hair that we have, blood type, whether or not we have an attached or detached earlobe, or even height. Keep in mind here that among different populations in Africa, we can have some of the tallest people in the world and also some of the shortest. So even the traits that we link to skin color are completely arbitrary. There are some physical traits that developed over time in specific geographic locations. But even these traits, like hair texture and nose shape, are still terribly inconsistent. Again, how we define race isn't real because skin color isn't as important as we think. This is not to say that traits are not inherited. No, they definitely are. Hence we have skin color and other traits like eye shape and nose shape. Human populations just have not been apart for long enough in order to develop distinct races.
In the early 19th century, science even used race to rank people, just like the Great Chain of Being mentioned earlier, where Europeans were ranked at the top, while Africans were ranked at the bottom, being said to be biologically closer to apes. But race was only ever a form of control, linking superior traits to one group and inferior traits to other groups. This is most apparent in Latin America, where the casta system clearly ranked people of different racial combinations into a neat little box.
So now we're gonna pause it right here because this is really a great example. Spanish people come in two different colors. Well, they come in a variety of colors, white and black. You know this from when you fill out forms. Spanish of white, white of Spanish, Hispanic descent, black of Hispanic descent. So how are Spanish people different? Because they have a different color of the skin, does it make them a completely different race? No, it does not. That's clear-cut evidence of social construction. Like, what are we talking about? Are we serious or we're not being serious at all? Like, y'all have got to start using your brains to dig a little deeper and think a little deeper. And then in this article from science.org, right? Scientists at Penn State continue to explore the genetics of skin color. In a 2017 study published in the journal Science, researchers report that their findings of even greater variance in skin color genes among Native Africans. The same appears to be true of Europeans, given that in 2018, researchers used DNA to reconstruct the face of the first British person, an individual known as the Chinaman, who lived 10,000 years ago. The scientists who took part in the reconstruction of the ancient man's face say that he most likely had blue eyes and dark brown skin. While they do not know for sure what he looked like, their findings dispute the idea that Europeans have always had light skin. Such diversity in skin color genes, says evolutionary geneticist Sarah Tishkoff, the lead author of the 2017 study, likely means that we can't even speak of an African race, much less a white one. As far as people are concerned, the human race is the only one that matters. And again, okay, y'all can feel however you want to feel about it. But at the end of the day, I have read the scientific studies. Have you? I'm giving you the blueprint to read the scientific study. And the problem with most of you, and I'm going to even show you images because I do have them here too. The issue with most people and why you cannot learn anything different beside the racist tropes that you've been taught is because you refuse to use your mind and you refuse to think. You want everybody else to think and do the work for you. This is the cheddar man. And I know Black people to this day that look just like this. So what exactly are we talking about? That's a reconstruction. Like, do your research. Know what you're talking about. You can come and troll people and say that things aren't true because y'all are racist for real and because y'all want to perpetuate the victimhood and the narratives. But what I want to know is, what is your solution? Where is your research? Where is your studies and where are your answers? And when you tell people, drop a link that shows opposition to what is being said, they never can. That being said, that being said, you know, people got to do what it is that they got to do. If you want to believe that race is real and you're less than genetically when science directly opposes that, then that's your right to do so. It would be stupid. It would be ill-advised, but that is your right. That would be your right. But when you go to the hospital and you need a blood transfusion, take note of if they ask you what your race is. Take note of the race of the person that's giving you the blood. When you need an organ transplant, take note of the race of the person that's giving you the organ. It is inconsequential. By that measure alone, race as a biological construct is ineffective. Because if you were genetically different from another race, you would not be able to take the blood of another person unless they were your race. If you were genetically different from another race, you wouldn't be able to take the organs of somebody else that was not your race. If you were genetically different from another race, you would not be able to procreate with someone from an opposite race unless your child would have several deformities. Maladaptive gene processes through evolution. Are you guys okay? I don't think y'all are really okay. Yes, they are. They are the same. 99.9% the same genetically. And again, the social construct aspect is something completely different. That's something that we need to consistently unpack, right? Because it's about the policies. And I've been telling people since I've been on YouTube, if you want to change what is happening in today's society, then you change it by politics and policies. But most people don't even take the time to truly understand politics because they really think that politics is about race. Race that's not real. When in all actuality, just like Spain had the casta system and India had the caste system and Asia was calling, like Japanese people were calling Chinese people the dogs of Asia. It's all about dominance, control, and financial power across the lands. But you know, What's up, Lady Snoop? How you doing today? So they can graft skin from a pig, right? They can do some grafting from ears and different things like that, but it never truly matches to the human tissue. It doesn't. But you're now getting into a topic of transhumanism. And transhumanism has been pushed because it's pushing a different agenda. That I have to think about how I want to talk about transhumanism on social media and YouTube platforms. But the goal is to take your essence of being a human being from you. Don't get it twisted. Why do you think they actually spent all the time they've spent developing CRISPR? I hope you don't think that CRISPR technology just happened to come about within the past couple of years. They've been working on CRISPR-9 technology since like the 70s for real. Actually, probably earlier than that. But as far as public consumption goes, like the 70s, 80s is when they started really letting you know that they were playing with genetics. I would prefer to say since like Soylent Green, those of you that know what Soylent Green is, they've been playing with genetics since back that far. Just like AI technology, a lot of y'all think that AI is a new technology, and it's not. AI technology has been around since like the 50s as well. But again, you only know what you research. You only know what will pique your curiosity. You only really know things when you start picking up books, when you start reading and you start doing your research. Also, when you start changing up your environment. There's a reason that people are conditioned to have the beliefs that they have. Sublimation is very real. They have subliminally been giving you advice on how to think, move, and ingest the society you live in for a long time. And yet, everybody still has free will. That's transhumanism. Ooh. Clark, don't do it, Clark, don't get him. You cannot survive with tissues into your body that are not human. This is why we have transplant issues and organ transplant rejection medications, because even taking organs from other people can cause you sepsis and cause you loss of life. But I just have a degree in science, so you don't have to take my word for it. And I find it very intriguing. I tell people this all the time, like quite literally, I have a degree in science. But why would I know anything about science? Anyway, y'all, this has been a fun little ditty. I just had to come and get that off my chest because I'm really tired of people, especially people of color, just giving themselves license to be less than. Because race is real. Race is real. Now it's a social construct. Stop putting your money in bullshit and capitalism and actually start investing into each other and the community. Stop talking to me about what Tulsa was, Black Wall Street, and all this and all that, and actually recreate it. If you could spend all your money buying into other people's labels and buying other people's cars and buying this, that, and the third, then you can also spend your money in supporting your own community and changing the landscape from a political aspect, from a policy aspect. You ever notice how somebody with a whole bunch of money walks in and they make the rules? It's the golden rule. Whoever has the gold makes all the rules. Anyway, do your own research. Thank you, Miss T. Pre. Do your own research, get into it, and stop looking for reasons to be different from one another. And actually just give people respect as human beings and have the real conversations. Anyway, y'all, I'm out. Peace.
Bro, G. Stand tall, can't break me. No, don't fuck with me. Don't fuck with me. Bad black queen, whole world gon' see. Yeah, don't fuck with me. Don't fuck with me. Diamonds on my wrist, mine sharper than a key. Don't fuck with me. Don't fuck
write the rules, you just quote them maybe. They throw dirt, but I bloom like daisies. Pressure make a queen, can't phase me. Walk in, shut it down. Bossy with a grin, I ain't waiting on respect. That respect built in. When they see me, they salute. Cause the crown legit. And if you try to block the shine, you dismiss, bitch.
Raw G, stand tall, can't break me. Don't fuck with me, don't fuck with me. Bad black queen, whole world gon' see ya. Don't fuck with me, don't fuck with me.
Yeah, I'm a storm in Chanel, hurricane and some hills. Turn struggle into billions, manifest what's real. You pressing for a crown, sit back, chill. I was born in the throne and I've been no will. They whisper my name cause they know it here. Heavy talk slick on the net, but in person not ready. I'm the fire and the flood, can't box me in steady. Raw G, no cage, yeah my aim too deadly.
Raw G, don't play with me. Don't play. Queens run the board, checkmate, you see. Talk loud, but your moves too weak, too cheap. I'm the nightmare you fear when you go to sleep. Raw G, stand tall, can't break me. Don't fuck with me, don't fuck with me. Bad black queen, whole world gon' see. Don't fuck with me, don't fuck with me. Diamonds on my wrist, mine sharper than a key. Don't fuck with me, don't fuck with me. Step in the room, all eyes on she. Don't fuck with me, don't fuck with me.